Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone. My name is Ji-Hyun Kim from Korea Research Institute on Climate Change as introduced. And thanks so much for Professor Kim Jong-hwan and other stakeholders for this meaningful event. Yes, so today I'm going to talk about the international greenhouse gas mitigation chances under the Paris Agreement. I have a question. Have you heard of a Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement? Are you used to it or no? No, some of you are not, and some of you are familiar to the Paris Agreement. Okay. Today I'm going to talk about the worldwide climate change and how we are going to respond to it, and how we can make a project to mitigate a greenhouse gas emissions. The chapter 1 is about the international climate change responses and how the world is responding to the climate change crisis. And the chapter 2 is about the understanding of the international greenhouse gas mitigation project. So let's go to the first chapter. So the global warming is accelerating due to the human activities. According to the 5th report of the IPCC, it is a scientific fact. The human is accelerating this climate change. And last year in the IPCC 6th report, it's announced that the global warming is clearly caused by the human activities. Actually, the human activities affect the fact that human activities affect the climate change is pretty general, but the scientific fact was found last year. The human activities causes the climate change and the global warming. The average global temperature has risen by 0.85 Celsius over the past 133 years. In this kind, we need to think that the humans are affecting the global crises and the global warming. So we need to find a anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions, and we have to mitigate them. Of course, some say that the global warming is just kind of natural, or is kind of natural status in between the ice ages. It is a fact. But the thing is that the human activities accelerate the global warming. It is also a fact by the IPCC. So we need to look for the anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. In the climate change response, from the human activities, there are mainly two parts. One is about the adaptations, and the other is about the mitigations. So actually, I'm not the profession of the adaptation like all of you. So I cannot tell you about how the climate change adaptation is going on. But I'm going to talk about the mitigations of the greenhouse gas. So the method for responding to the climate change include the adaptation to the climate change risk crisis and the mitigation by reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. So let's look deeper for their characteristics, how the adaptation looks like and how the mitigation looks like. So for the first adaptation, it means to adjust to expected and actual effect of climate change to reduce the vulnerability. It is about the livings. It is about the human livings. And the goals of the adaptation is to reduce a risk and increase the ability to prepare, absorb, and recover from adverse climate event. So it focuses mainly on local point, some cities, and some kind of prefectures and some kind of province. Like the adaptation mainly focuses on the local part. So it starts with a specific local situation. And the geography is mainly global south already experiences the effect and is more vulnerable to climate change, like the flood, drought, the storms and hurricanes, and they are they more likely to affect to more south countries than the north countries because it's about the technology improvement or those kind of things. So, for example, the adaptation of the examples of the adaptation is the disaster management and flood protections and etc. While the topic of today, the mitigation, the greenhouse gas mitigation, means to reduce our emissions and enhance things this towards greenhouse gas, which comes out from the human activity. And the goal of the mitigation is to avoid the negative impact of climate change, and it focuses mainly on the global impact, not the local, but the global impact. Because when these kinds of greenhouse gas emit to the atmosphere, it can affect globally. So greenhouse gas mitigation focuses on the global impact. And the geography is the global north and south, like all the countries in the world. That has the highest emissions. And examples, the clean energy, the energy efficiency, the sustainable transport, and like any kind of sustainable agriculture, and every other sectors and every kind that can mitigate the greenhouse gas can be included in the mitigation project. So let's move on to the next page. So we are talking about the greenhouse gas. What is greenhouse gas? What is greenhouse gas? It's a gas that warms our earth, right? But I have a question. Is the greenhouse gas is bad? It is bad or no? No. Right, correct. Greenhouse gas is not bad because it helps our earth stay in stable temperature. While if there are too many greenhouse gas, it can warm our earth. So in the anthropogenic greenhouse gas, we mainly deal with these 6 gases: the CO2, CH4, N2O, HFC gas, PFC gas, and SF6 gases are the main anthropogenic greenhouse gas. I have a question. Which gas is the most part in the atmosphere? Which gas do you think? Do you think it's CO2? Do you think it's a CO2? Nitrogen. No. Actually, the water vapor is the most gas in the atmosphere. But why I'm talking about the anthropogenic greenhouse gas? In this atmosphere, the water vapor counts for the most part. But we cannot control them, right? Because it mainly comes out from the oceans. Yes. So what I want to tell you is that in this climate change mitigation sector, we need to deal with these anthropogenic greenhouse gases that we can manage and we can control, right? Yes. Yes. So let's take a look about the international response to the climate change. From here, have you heard of UNFCCC? Like one of the biggest convention in the world for the climate change. Have you heard of it, right? And about the Kyoto Protocol in 1997 and the Paris Agreement, what I'm going to talk about today. It is really important agreement in this era. So from here, I like to highlight the importance of the Paris Agreement and what characteristic the Paris Agreement has. So to highlight the Paris Agreement, I think I need to explain you about the Kyoto Protocol for the first time. have a question. Which country is the biggest greenhouse gas emitter in the world? China. Yes, and the second? Or maybe second and third? Let's guess. I hear. Can you say more clearly? Like, yes, I hear the United States. I hear the China and India. So, anyone from those country? Yes. Anyone from China or the India or the United States? No. Oh God, thanks. Because the China. The first is the China, the second is India, and actually the second is the United States, and the third is India, and they account for about 65% of the greenhouse emission globally. But let's look onto the Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol is a protocol that limits the Annex 1 country not to emit their greenhouse gas. And in the Annex 1 country, there were about 38 countries, including developed countries, like the European Unions, and like most of the countries included in the European Unions, and Japan, and New Zealand, and Australia, those kind of countries, and USA also. But no China and no India, and US get out of the Kyoto Protocol in 2013, which means that in the Kyoto Protocol era, 65 a minimum 65% of the greenhouse gas emissions were not managed. It is really interesting, right? Yeah, thank you so much. So, in the 2015, all the climate summits from all the countries came into France, Paris, and they concluded that all the countries in the world have to control their greenhouse gas emissions, their anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. This is the main point of the Paris Agreement. So, as a result, 197 countries are participating in the Paris Agreement to deal with this climate change crisis. It is really important. Under the Kyoto Protocol, only 38 countries were controlled, while from the Paris Agreement era, all the countries in the world have to mitigate their greenhouse gas emissions. Is it clear? It's very simple, right? Yes. So, due to the Paris Agreement, from 2021, the new era we call the new climate system has been initiated till after our it doesn't designate a endpoint, so it is going permanently. Yes. So in the Kyoto Protocol, as I have said, the developing countries doesn't have any obligations to meet the greenhouse gas mitigation goals, while in the developed countries, including 38 developed countries, are obligated to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions as of 1990. So they had to manage the 6 major greenhouse gases that I have told you: the CO2, the CH4, the N2O, and those kind of gases. From 2008 to 2012 compared to 1990, emission levels by 6 to 8%. So they introduced a system called the ETS, the JI, CID, and CDM. What is ETS? It is the emission trading scheme. Have you heard of it? Like some kind of market that we can trade the emission outcomes, the mitigation outcomes. And also, the JI is a joint implementation that developed countries and developed countries have cooperation to mitigate the greenhouse gases, but it was not popular at that time. But this CDM is really important because the Annex 1 country, which is the developed countries, are implementing their greenhouse gas mitigation project in the developing countries. So when they do those kind of projects, they get outcome credit is a certified emission reduction in CER. They get CER, and if they get CER, they can sell on the market called ETS. It was a mechanism in the Kyoto Protocol. While lots and lots of Korean entities are earning a benefit from this CDM project also. Yes. So about the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement, it indicates a lot and lots of importances after 2021 afterwards. The first is the global goal. It sets out a 2.0 Celsius goals and ambitiously 1.5 emissions goals, which means that we cannot stop this global warming, but while we can give our effort to just limit them to just 2.0 Celsius rise, and with a very ambitious goals, it can be just stale till the 1.5 Celsius temperature. It is a global goal. Second, the NDC. Have you heard of NDC? It is really important. NDC. No, okay. So NDC, as I have told, the 197 parties are participating in the Paris Agreement, and their goal is different from every other countries because their current situation and their current any financial and technical situation is different. So those kind of greenhouse gas mitigation goals are indicated in every other country's NDC. So if there are 197 parties in the Paris Agreement, there are 197 NDCs also. It is a nationally determined contribution. So this NDC is really important because it is a nation's goal to achieve the greenhouse gas mitigation goals. And also, there is a global implementation check. The UNFCCC is going all around the world to see how they are implementing these NDCs every 5 years. And this is really important. This is today's topic, the international market mechanism. The international market mechanism, I will tell you later on the next page. And also it takes really serious about the adaptation measures and fundraising and technology transfer. In the Paris Agreement in 2015, let's suppose we are from the developing countries, and actually at that time, or like most of the developing countries, are going to be developed, right? So to achieve this development, we need to mitigate the greenhouse gas. But why those US and those European countries let us not to do those kind of development? It can happen, right? So the developed countries has decided to support financially and technically. So they have established the GCF, one of the international organization in Incheon-songdo, the Green Climate Fund. They have established to support the developing countries financially, and also they have developed a CTCM for the technology transfer. And also in the Paris Agreement, they take really serious about the REDD+, which is to halt the forest deforestation and degradation from the human activities. Yes. So from here, what is Article 6 mechanisms? It is really important relating to these international market mechanisms. Paris Agreement, in the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, it suggests that in the Article 6.2, they suggest a cooperative approach, which means it utilizes the MOS generated from voluntary cooperation between the parties in the form of bilateral or multilateral cooperation for NDC implementation. It looks really complicated, but the only thing is that when two countries voluntarily have the cooperation, and as a result, if we get the mitigation outcomes, it can be sold on the international market, or we can use them to achieve our NDCs. So, and in the Article 6.4 of Paris Agreement, they suggest about a mechanism. It is a mechanism managed by the supervisory body designated by the CMA, which is CMA, and is used versions of 6.4 ERS and the implementation of the NDC. This is pretty similar to CDM that I have told you in the Kyoto Protocol part. And from this mechanism, we can also earn a emission reduction, and also we can sell them in the international market, or we can use them for our implementation of the NDC. So the only thing is that all the countries need to achieve their NDC goals. It is a fact. And to achieve the NDC internationally, if a country wants to achieve their NDC goal internationally, their only way is to utilize these Article 6 mechanisms under the Paris Agreement. And as a result, from this Article 6.2, they get MOS, and from the Article 6.4, they get a 6.4 ERS. They are kind of credit, and when they are correspondingly adjusted to the other countries internationally, they form a ITMOS. So as a result, to achieve our NDC, or we can sell it on the international market, we need to get this ITMO. And to achieve this ITMO, there are only two ways. One is Article 6.2, the corporate approach, and the other is the Article 6.4 mechanism under the Paris Agreement. Is it clear? Yes. So then how can we make a international greenhouse gas emission project? What to consider? Let's see. So let's understand about the international mitigation project. So the successful result of international greenhouse gas mitigation projects are based on the profession of international schemes like the Paris Agreement Article 6 mechanisms, and their need appropriate project area, technology, and ITMO agreement. It is really important. So one is this kind of greenhouse gas mitigation project should be based on the decision of the Paris Agreement. Article 6 mechanism, it is really important. Article 6 mechanisms. And the second is we need the project area and the technologies. Nowadays, I am asked from some kind of small and medium-sized Korean entities for their international mitigation greenhouse gas mitigation chances, but they don't have any project area or any technologies. They are saying that they only have any network with some kind of minister from a kind of ministry, and they are saying that if we give them money, they can implement the greenhouse gas mitigation project. But I am asking them, and where and how, and they have no ideas. So if you like to achieve these ITMOs, we need to find a appropriate project area and the technologies. And third is the ITMO agreement. To achieve this ITMO, this internationally transferred mitigation outcome, the authorization between the participating party is really important. So, like, if we get this ammo from 6.2 or a 6.4 ER from the 6.4, we cannot use them. We can only use them when all the participating parties' authorization is. So, which means that the developing countries, the authorization, the power is getting bigger and bigger. It is true. It is really true. Like, even though like all the like fundings and technologies are from developed countries, well, if they cannot earn this kind of ITMOs, it is really useless. So I mean that the developing countries' power is getting more and more powerful. It is a fact, and it is really important. And lastly, and it should achieve the SDGs goals. Like, it has to be socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable. And also that kind of project should meet the NDC, like each participating country's NDC, because the use of ITMO is to achieve our NDC. So they have to, the project had to meet the NDC. And this kind of ITMO securement through international mitigation projects should be based on international and national policies. So this is a checklist. It is suggested under the COP26 decision under UNFCCC, and they said that like ITMO should be like this, and the host country should be like that. So under this kind of fact, we are my company is developing a greenhouse gas emission project internationally. So I think the time's up, and to conclude, today I have told you about the importance of the Paris Agreement. Like, the most important thing from Paris Agreement is that 197 countries are participating. We need to keep this in mind. And as 197 countries have to cooperate in the Paris Agreement, they suggest us about the Article 6 mechanisms for our better international greenhouse gas mitigation cooperation. So if we follow this kind of Article 6 mechanisms, we can get to the international greenhouse gas mitigation project, and we can win this crisis. Thank you so much.